Hey, BitBlockBoom. It's been a lot of fun seeing a lot of familiar faces here. This is why I like to come to these conferences, and this one in particular because, you're with the Bitcoiner family, as opposed to some of those other conferences. All right. So, Tick Tock Next Block. So many of you have probably heard this phrase before. It started out as the close to a tweet that I made to celebrate Bitcoin's heartbeat on the occasion of its 600,000th block. All right, can you guys see the tweet? There we go. We good? You see a tweet, Laura? Okay. So this is the tweet that I made, Bitcoin's 600,000th block. So over time, this phrase became adopted by Bitcoiners as a meme to describe Bitcoin as an unstoppable force and to give a nod to its temporal nature. But there's a lot more to this meme than it may seem. Every civilization has devised ways to capture time. We've built monuments to mark its passing, machines to measure it, and myths to explain it. From shadow to pendulum, from quartz to atoms, these innovations didn't just change how we keep time, they define civilizations. So to see how time shapes us now, let's return to when measuring the heavens became a way to manage the earth. It's the story of how humanity learned to keep time and how in turn, time began to keep us. In Egypt, priests watched for the heliacal rising of Sirius just before dawn. This was the signal that the Nile's flood was near. Calendars fixed planting, taxes, and festivals to the star's return, which turned skywatching into administration. You had obelisks, shadow clocks, and nilometers tied the heavens to the river, ritual to routine. Babylon made time countable. Their base 60 way of counting gave us 24 hours, 60 minutes, and 60 seconds. And water clocks met tablets and contracts, hours specified labor, deliveries, and debts. Astronomer scribes kept nightly logs and predictions, turning observation into schedules and obligations. Time entered the ledger, measured, divisible, enforceable. Monastic life ran on the rulebook and the bell. Set times brought prayer and work into order. Early mechanical clocks, gears and weights rang the hours. It marked the shift from nature's changing day to a mechanical, steady beat, a community kept in sync by sound with timekeeping organizing daily life. Then navigation demanded a clock that could travel. The marine chronometer let ships hold course across oceans. Greenwich gave a common reference for maps and schedules. In port, a new ritual appeared. It's called the time ball. This is why the New York time drop happens every New Year's Eve. It was a great sphere that was hoisted high in the sky and then dropped at the exact moment so that captains could set their chronometers by sight. In North America, towns once kept their own noons, setting their clocks by the sun's highest point. This system resulted in a patchwork of over 144 different times, making coordinated travel and commerce nearly impossible. The advent of trains, which could not run safely or efficiently on dozens of different times, forced a move to standard time zones. The telegraph turned time into signal, an electrical tick from an observatory's master clock, and then wires carried noon across distance so train stations synced to a shared beat. This was the start of truly networked time. This synchronization drove the entire modern world. Factory whistles carved days into shifts, punch clocks tracked minutes, and broadcast schedules taught whole nations to gather at once. Today, atomic clocks drive precision to the nanosecond, with GPS satellites and network time keeping phones, servers, and global commerce in perfect alignment. Historian Lewis Mumford wrote that the clock, not the steam engine, was the key machine of the modern industrial age. New clocks don't just tell time. They fundamentally reorganize work, coordination, and the entire tempo of civilizations. Every leap in timekeeping has changed how we live, but today, for the first time, we have three fundamentally different clocks running our civilization. Natural time, the rhythm of earth and sky, the oldest clock. It's written into the world itself, reflected in sundials and calendars. Slow, cyclical, patient, the tempo of seasons and tides. Machine time, the rhythm of industry and computation. This emerged centuries ago and is measured by the chronometers and atomic clocks that I mentioned. The tempo is precise, but it accelerates with advancements in technology. So the tempo of factories and networks. Now, these two clocks have guided the modern world, one grounding us in nature, the other driving progress. Less than 2 decades ago, a curious new kind of clock appeared, a clock that bridges nature and machine. Bitcoin time, a digital pulse secured by the fundamental laws of nature through proof of work. A sundial in cyberspace. It's approximate but incorruptible. Natural time keeps us human, machine time drives us forward, and Bitcoin time bridges the two. So together, these three clocks define a new temporal landscape, which in turn will shape how our civilization unfolds.
BitBlockBoom started because we were outsiders, and we needed a place that felt like home. Stockyards were always a place for people who didn't fit in. Let's go take a look at the cow town. Put on your hat. Let's go. Stockyards weren't just a cattle town. It was a place for cattlemen, traders, outlaws, and gamblers, people that were building something new. And that sounded familiar. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were known to spend time here, and Bonnie and Clyde stayed right here at the Stockyard Hotel. Hotels were great, but they're too normal, and Bitcoin is anything but normal. So we moved BitBlockBoom to a place with some edge and some history. They still run Longhorn steer down this street every day, just like they did 100 years ago. And BitBlockBoom, well, it's just a few steps away. This is Mule Alley. This is where relationships are made. Bars, restaurants, rodeos, hangouts. Mule Alley is the place to come when the BitBlockBoom day is done. BitBlockBoom was built for people who didn't have a home, and the same thing applies to the stockyards. Seems like we finally found a home. See you at the stockyards.
So 1971 didn't just sever the ledger from the clock. It fused the untethered ledger with machine time. Digital networks, algorithmic systems, around-the-clock global capital flows, money that could be created from nothing now moved at the speed of light. This is the unstable combination. A money system that must accelerate to survive, fused with a clock whose tempo never stops accelerating. The pattern is ancient, the velocity is new, and velocity changes everything. Machine time, until very recently, was still program time. Humans wrote the algorithms, set the parameters, decided which systems optimized for. They could no longer follow the speed at which the systems operated. A human being could, in principle, pull the plug, but now that constraint is dissolving. AI systems are learning to set their own parameters, to write their own strategies, to discover patterns that no human has specified, pursuing objectives that emerge from training rather than instruction. So this isn't a new tool within machine time. This is machine time becoming autonomous. Systems that allocate capital, assess risk, generate content, make decisions at speed and scales that leave human oversight not merely slow, but structurally irrelevant. Machine time is no longer merely fast. If there's a way to keep the human in the loop, to make the most consequential decisions pass through a gate that moves at human speed, it will require a clock that machines cannot accelerate. A clock anchored in thermodynamic physics, not merely digital computation. And this is why the third clock matters much more than Satoshi probably knew. For decades, the accelerating pulse of machine time has been the engine of the fiat money system. Our global financial order, a system of instant, untethered digital creation, runs on that machine time. It's the perfect philosophical match. It's that money system that must accelerate, and the clock that cannot stop accelerating. So why are they such an unstable match? Because fiat money is untethered. It can be created from nothing, as we all know. And machine time is fast. So its tempo enables that untethered money to operate at a speed that is growing more and more fundamentally disconnected from natural time, from a human cadence. So this unstable combination of fiat money and machine time introduces a deep source of what I like to call a quiet coercion. It actively erodes and overrides our slow, rooted, human-scale natural time. Let's understand the lived reality of the quiet coercion. And this will be familiar to most of you probably. It compresses our future into the present. So the engine of this compression is that unstable combination of the fiat money and the machine time. Your capital can't rest. You're constantly chasing return just to outpace that erosion. And this financial pressure creates a cultural pressure. The business model of our modern information system, the 24-hour news cycle, the endless shorts feed, is attention harvesting for fiat revenue. And these companies are on the same treadmill, forced to chase the same short-term quarterly targets. And machine time is the perfect engine for the chase. The same relentlessly accelerating algorithmic cadence that powers high-frequency trading is now used to harvest human attention. So this is the unstable feedback loop that's built the temporal rails pushing our civilization ever more towards speed, reaction, and short-termism. It's not just fiat money, it's also machine time. So when our entire financial and digital system runs on this unstable engine, instant becomes the default expectation. And this is a deep psychological shift for everyone. It socializes impatience. The slow, steady, difficult work required by natural time, like saving or mastering a skill or building a family or pursuing any long-term project like building a business, it begins to feel intolerable or impossible. And this impatience is not a personal failing, it's a mass cultural condition. And this is the effect, what I like to call that quiet coercion that sort of lives in the background of our culture now. So this is the present that we find ourselves in and the future that we're trying to avoid. A future where that unstable system keeps compressing our future, socializing our impatience, and pulling us along on a relentlessly accelerating cadence. The quiet coercion consuming our natural time. And this is where the genius of the third clock reveals itself. Bitcoin is not just an alternative. It's the bridge to a human-scale cadence that persists within machine time. Satoshi had to solve the problem of machine time before he could solve the problems of money. In the Bitcoin white paper, he wrote, "We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server." In his original code, in a comment, he gave it a more poetic and powerful name, the time chain. And the time chain is absolutely brilliant. It maintains an immutable sequence of events required to make Bitcoin money work inside of machine time. You can't accelerate the Bitcoin clock. But here's another moment of genius in the white paper. And this one is, we all know it, but this one is the one I like to point to as the most genius aspect because it's incredibly original, and it was what really allowed Satoshi to solve the problem of machine time. It's the difficulty adjustment. And every about 2016 blocks, it's about 2 weeks, the network measures its own speed. And if the clock is running too fast, the network makes the work harder to slow it down. And if it's too slow, the work gets easier to speed it back up. So Satoshi taught a digital clock how to keep human scale rhythm in machine time space. It provides a human anchor in the digital world, a steady cadence, and a space that will only keep accelerating away from us. So this is an act of reconciliation. It's an anchor that will allow natural time to coexist with machine time in a human way, which is precisely what allows us to reprice time itself. Bitcoin reprices time by anchoring economic calculations to a stable, provable clock in cyberspace. So in other words, Bitcoin the money. And Bitcoin's the perfect fusion of money and time. It's a stable, temporal, monetary system. It stretches our horizons by making tomorrow's purchasing power at least as real as today's. And that shift doesn't command behavior the way the machine time, fiat machine time complex does. It invites it. It changes the incentive structure in a healthy way. The anxiety of now is replaced by the potential of later because you're anchored to a stable, predictable future. So this is the profound personal level change, right? A society running on the quiet coercion is a society of triage. A society running on Bitcoin time is a society of ambition, one that has the stability to coexist with the accelerating pace of machine time. Bitcoin creates margin. It restores the breathing room that the quiet coercion destroys. It gives us human scale anchor in machine speed world. This is the freedom to reclaim depth, the freedom to choose mastery over metrics, to study something for 5 years without watching your savings evaporate in the background, the freedom to hold a season for grief, for parenting, for creating without the tax of urgency. It's the power to say, not yet, to a rush deadline, to refuse short-term extraction in favor of long-term craft. And freedom is just often having the time to say no. The quiet coercion of the unstable system devalues what is slow by nature. Childhood, apprenticeship, topsoil, forests, trust. Everything that requires patience are the first things sacrificed in a high time preference, machine time economy. But Bitcoin time flips the gradient. It makes slow things investable again, and Bitcoin time protects the slow. The quiet coercion forces local economies to be extracted, to compete for restless capital that must be paid back now. It starves the commons. Bitcoin time allows capital to sit still, waiting for real patient return. This makes the slow, trust-based structures like commons and cooperatives and guilds viable again. So suddenly the 18-year project that changes a town becomes fundable, not just the 18-week version that has to hit a quarterly target. This is how a community stops surviving quarter to quarter and starts building for the century. The dominant incentive created by the quiet coercion is churn, to replace what could be repaired and chase the quarterly target. Bitcoin incentivizes durable goods, repairability, and long-term reputation that begin to outcompete that churn. The business model itself shifts from planned obsolescence to planned longevity. And this is the shift from extraction to ownership, to stewardship. It's an economy where you are rewarded not for what breaks, but for what endures. Culture thickens. The slow weave of human life, festivals, art, music, story, no longer needs to fit in the cracks left by commerce. Anchored by Bitcoin time, our culture can coexist with machine time, not just be consumed by it. Traditions stop being bending to retail calendars and start rooting themselves in place and meaning again. Artists can take decades to finish a work. Communities can sustain rituals without sponsorships. And celebrations can once more mark the seasons rather than the shopping cycles. And this is the way everything worked when we were on natural time, right? Culture will regain density, patience, and memory. And there's a subtler, deeper layer. Conscience requires time. So to act ethically, you need a horizon spacious enough to allow you to care. So short horizons breed excusable neglect. The long horizons reawaken duty. If you want a modern civilization that remembers its promises, you need a clock that lets those promises be kept. So Bitcoin and Bitcoin time won't build utopia, but it does remove the quiet coercion that keeps us from even trying. So we stand at a unique moment in history. We now have a new clock fused with a new money. It's a perfect pairing to build a new civilization. It's the first clock in history that actually tames that machine time acceleration that does threaten to kind of steal our humanity away from us. The first bridge that reconciles machine time and natural time. It's a new clock. So Tick Tock Next Block. Thank you all very much. Hope that helped deepen the meme a little bit for you. And that's it for BitBlockBoom. Here we go, Nico.